Hi, welcome back to another video lecture here. We're going to talk about molecular nomenclature. So molecules are also called covalent compounds. I call them molecules just because it's easier. And unlike ionic compounds, so if we remember correctly, ionic bonding is the transfer of valence electrons from one element to the next to create a bond. Covalent molecules are created by the sharing of valence electrons. So before we get started, we need to know what the 7 diatomic molecules are. And those are going to be these 7 here. I told you to mark them on your periodic tables if you're an in-person learner. If you're a virtual learner or a remote learner, you need to know these 7. So you'll never see just nitrogen as N in nature. It'll always be an N2. And you just simply call it nitrogen, or you can call it diatomic nitrogen, or nitrogen gas. But that's pretty much all you need to know. You need to know these 7. So those 7 are nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine. Only those 7. You simply call them what they are. So when naming them, you simply call them diatomic, and then whatever the element is, or you can simply call it like nitrogen gas or diatomic nitrogen. So other molecules are going to be either what's called binary, which just means there's 2 of them, or ternary, which means there's 3 or more. So an example of a binary, if we have binary, it's going to be something like this. It'll be H2O. There's only 2 elements involved. If something was ternary, I'm just going to make this up off the top of my head, it's going to be a C, an O, and an H. It's going to be 3 or more elements that are bonded together. So when naming molecular compounds, these subscripts matter. The subscripts are the smaller numbers. So if we look at this H2O, this 2 right here is your subscript. And it's going to be highly important that you know these prefixes. So if we're talking about 1, we mean mono, 2 is di, 3 is tri, 4 is tetra, 5 is penta, like a pentagon, triangle, 6 is hexa, like a hexagon, 7 is hepta, 8 is octa, like an octagon, 9 is nona, and then 10 is deca, like a decade, is 10 years. So other than that, there's pretty much not a whole lot to do. I'm not going to give you ternary molecules at this time. I'll ask you to identify whether it's binary or ternary, but I'm not going to give you any ternary molecules to name. So let's do a few examples and let's make sense of this. So I'm going to keep this prefix sheet handy. If you don't know those prefixes, I would write them down. So again, 1 is mono, 2 is di, 3 is tri, 4 is tetra, 5 is penta, 6 is hexa, 7 is hepta, 8 is octa, 9 is nona, and 10 is deca. So let's name the first 5 on each side so that you know how it works. So we've got AS4O10. So the name of this molecule, we look at these little subscripts. So we know that 4 is tetra, so we would simply write tetra. The element name, AS is arsenic. So we got tetra arsenic. 10 is deca, so we have a little space, deca ox. The very important thing here is that these every single one of these has to end in an IDE. That is the chemist way of saying this is bonded to something. So instead of writing deca oxygen, we write deca oxide. So the next one, we got a bromine, so we're going to say bromine, that should have been capitalized, bromine, tri oxide. Not too bad. We got 1 bromine, we got 3 oxygens. So here's one of those diatomics. We got O2, so I'm just going to call this oxygen gas. Next one, we got N2O3, N2, so we got 2 nitrogens, so we're going to call it di-nitrogen. We got 3 oxygens, so that becomes tri oxide. Very good. So the next one, I'm actually going to skip that one. I'm going to find one that has a unique property so that I can explain the one exception to this rule. There we go. Let's do number 9. So now we've got one carbon and one oxygen. So you never put a prefix on a single molecule that starts. So like we wouldn't put monobromine. We would not put mononitrogen or monosulfur. We just simply write what it is. So we would write carbon, mono, oxide. So that's how you name the molecule from a formula. And now let's do a few on taking a name and creating a formula. So chlorine monooxide. So that means we have one chlorine and we have one oxygen. So chlorine is Cl, and then we have an O. Oxygen difluoride, so we have an OF2. We have 2 fluorines attached to 1 oxygen. Next one, we got dinitrogen monooxide. Di means 2. We got 2 nitrogens, so N with the 2. Mono, we have 1 oxygen, so we're just going to put N2O. Let's skip down to number 9 again. We'll do diphosphorus pentoxide. So we got 2 phosphorus, we've got 5 oxygens. So the most important thing is you've got to know your prefixes. Again, these are the prefixes. If you do not know these, pause this video at this moment and write those down. Other than that, there's not a whole lot to do in covalent. Tomorrow you will have ionic, and there's a little bit more to ionic. You'll have a great day. If you need anything, please let me know.